Never die. 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 Never die.
All right, this is the Angry Dad. Thank you guys for tuning in. And before we get started, I'd like to thank my sponsors, Everyday Fit Life. If you're looking for a plan, a step-by-step guide, something that can help walk you through diet, nutrition, and just a way to like set a healthy goal for your life, Everyday Fit Life. You can get hooked up with 20% off with code AngryDad. They have a 30-day, 60-day, 90-day plan. Follow the plan, follow the schedule, and goddamn it, it will change your life because that's how it works. That's Everyday Fit Life. Use the link in the notes with the code Max Performance Peptides. Look, if you're looking to get into peptides, you're looking to learn how to use peptides, you're looking to use peptides, go to Max Performance Peptides, use code AngryDad, and get hooked up. That is Max Performance Peptides. All the links in the notes, so please check it the fuck out. And all that good fucking shit. And I have a guest today, Marc motherfucking Sanchez.
What's going on?
What's up? Hey, veteran, powerlifter, strongman, someone who's fucking popping off in the market. And it's like we've got to meet at I think it was official Strongman Games the first time.
Yeah, back in 2023.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And we just constantly cross paths. You know, he's a good follow on Instagram, so make sure you check the fuck out. I'll put the link in the notes. You know what I'm saying? But the last competition was Santa Monica, right?
Yep, the Santa Monica Classic hosted by Martin Licis. Yeah.
Right off. Oh yeah, no, it's all good, brother. We both are just like a little bit of out of sync today, just on the scheduling part, because when you're working different time zones, you know how it fucking goes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, with Martin, was that because I believe that was Martin's that was his first Santa Monica Pro, and everything he's doing out there. And when we were talking, actually, you're saying how well it was set up and how easy everything was, and also how accommodating they are for you guys, because typically, you know, the strongman competitions, it's all about the strongman. Just, you know, backstage is backstage.
Yeah, no, I've done a lot of competitions. I've done a lot of powerlifting meets, stuff like that. And that was by far the smoothest, on times, and very accommodating competitions I've ever been a part of. It was probably one of my favorite shows I've ever done. Well, I would actually say it was my favorite show that I've ever done. Just being the fact that being a strongman, like trying to perform in front of an organic crowd, I don't really think you get that very often, right? Like most of the time, people you have to promote the show. You gotta have to, you know, sell tickets. You kind of have an expectation of what the crowd's gonna be like. And man, that was unreal. We got to perform right next to the roller coaster on the Santa Monica Pier. It was free admission, and so you just had people who were like, "Oh, I'm gonna go to the Santa Monica Pier today. Oh, that guy's deadlifting a car. Let's go check this out." And it just turned into one of the best experiences I've had in my life. I represent the Philippines in strongman, and the Filipino population in Los Angeles in general is just massive. And so, literally, like I would.
Well, they do show up.
They show up, and they show up in crowds. And literally every single time I'd finish an event, and I loved it. I loved it so much. But like every time I'd finish an event, I'd walk back to the athlete area, and it was pretty much open. It was basically like a security gate that separated the athletes from the spectators, and everybody just coming up to me, wanting to take pictures, trying to get to know me and stuff like that. Like, you're the biggest Filipino we've ever seen, this and that. And so it was a phenomenal
which is
experience.
A fact.
Yes.
For those listening,
I am like the smallest athlete in most of the shows that I do, being 6 feet tall, 320, and I'm one of the largest Filipinos that I've personally met. So,
hey, that's the same here, because, like I said, you know, like I said, there are stereotypes on the size, and God damn it, bro. Even when you was telling me he was Filipino, I was like,
there's no way.
What? No way. You know what I'm saying? It's that American food, you know?
Yeah. You had Austin Andrade on your podcast recently, and it was funny. We were hanging out at the Strongest Man on Earth, and he looked at me. He was staring at me for like 5 minutes, and finally comes up to me and goes, "Man, I thought you were Mexican." This whole time I thought you were Mexican.
And that's the thing too. So, Mexicans and Filipinos get along quite well. The language is very airy. So it's
very
like I could see that how that happens.
yeah, and especially too, like a lot of people ask, like, "Oh, your last name is Sanchez. How'd that happen?" And it turns
Yeah,
into an entire history class. But yeah,
exactly.
a lot of very similar, a lot of similarities between us too.
Oh yeah, no, it's crazy, and that's the thing too is like being your size still, which is a large man, you're still on the smaller end of the strongman scale. And
Yeah,
like I said, that's one of those. It's an advantage, but it's also a disadvantage on certain events. But that's the thing, though, too, is you got to make that work towards work as hard as you can to get it towards your advantage for everything.
yeah, like size definitely plays a key factor when it comes to strongman. But I would still say, as long as an athlete is like in tune with their leverages, in tune with how their body works, and you really lean into things that you're good at, right? Like for me, believe it or not, like I have a sprinting background, and so like trying to be faster than other athletes in my moving events, I have a really elite level powerlifting background, trying to be super strong in my static events. So trying to really lean into those, really being honest with myself about like my weaknesses and stuff like that, and then trying to really work on the those type of things. But ultimately, yeah, I mean, there are a lot of giant slayers in strongman, and I really like the fact that when I was first getting into strongman, I was like, man, I'm too small for this. There's no way. And you learn really quick as long as you work really hard at it. You focus on your weaknesses. It don't matter if you're 400 plus pounds, or it don't matter if you're 300 or like 275 or something like that. Like you can easily get into the sport and do really well.
Exactly. And just mentioning that as an elite power lifter, what I'm saying, could you just let the people know like some of your actual static lifts in powerlifting? Because like I said, it's squat, bench, and deadlift. So you just
Yeah.
in that alone to be able to say you're an elite power lifter, the numbers are good.
Yeah, so for the powerlifting fans, I had a 531 dot score. I was a 275 pound powerlifter for the majority of my career. My last powerlifting competition was in Miami, Florida. It was called the Ghost Clash. I had a 840. I'm kind of rounding because it's kilos, but I had about an 840-pound squat, a 420-pound bench, and an 815 deadlift. My current like gym PRs, I guess, or PRs in general since then. The Rainier Classic, that's a strongman pro-am show up in Seattle. One of the events was a max squat on day 2 of that competition, and I squatted I squatted 400 kilos, 881 pounds. And then recently I pulled 926 in a deadlift suit twice. So those are some of the
Nice.
big things I've been working towards recently.
Oh yeah. Well, nowadays almost everybody in strongman you have to pull 1,000. You know what I'm saying? It's like
Yeah, we were talking about that
you
with the deadlift championship.
exactly. It's like you know what I'm saying? It's like you got to have this number. And Austin just pulled,
Over a
speaking of
grand.
him, over, yeah. And it's
Yeah.
like everybody has to do this. And like even too, like the new world record, which was just reset, you know what I'm
Yep.
saying? For Thor was fucking, 510 kilos, which
Yeah.
fuck, how much
Moved
is like
super
yeah,
well.
super well.
Like
Super
I
well.
saw I saw so I think it was Evan Singleton who was talking about how no matter what video you watched online, it did not do the speed of that justice in person. It looked like he
I
had at least
believe it.
3 more in the tank. And that was
I believe
crazy.
it. Yeah.
It looked super easy for him. I think on that day he probably at least had 520, 530.
Oh yeah, but and that's one of those things too. Is like just in my background of working with Nick and a few other strongmen, it's like when you're pulling like that, and especially when you're setting records, you don't break the record astronomically. You break it little at a time to build
Yep.
it up.
Yep.
And but the thing even too is like with Thor came down in size and improved his technique, completely changed his deadlift
Mhm.
to put it on a whole other level. So it's just impressive just to watch that. And Thor's a fucking
Yeah.
big dude. I'm 6'5" and I'm still looking up.
Yeah, Thor is actually the very first like strongman I ever met in person in his home gym in Iceland. And I remember I think
Nice.
I was like 220 pounds. I was getting ready for like IPL Worlds, a little powerlifter me. And I walk in, I got to his gym first, so his dad let me in. Thor showed up a little bit later. He was getting ready for like World's Ultimate Strongman, like Dubai or something like that. And I remember
Yeah.
him walking in. He was like, he was his old self of 6'9", like 440, and I was like, Jeez, like I had never seen a human
Yeah.
that large before.
Yeah. It's crazy because like when you see him, you see Bride, you just like, you know, and that just reminds you of like, God damn it, you know what I'm saying? This sport
Yeah.
it literally collects monsters.
Yes, it's nuts.
Oh, you know, with even with that too, the one thing I love about strongman since I've been in it is the camaraderie
Yep.
amongst the everybody competitors. You could be going
Yep.
head to head with somebody, you know, they turn it on, but once you're in that backstage area, everyone's doing their thing, but also too everyone's having a good time. You know,
Yeah,
that's one of the
it's
things
like
I love about
it's a
strongman.
party. Like I remember when I
Yeah.
first got into powerlifting, I was like, wow, this community is really nice and supportive. Like, and they were like, usually every time we go to a powerlifting competition, everybody's kind of like in their own space, but everybody's kind of supportive and this and that. But, like I remember when I signed up for my very first strongman show, I was like, what do I need? How do I do it? And everybody was like, just sign up, show up, and if you're missing something, like we'll give you equipment, we'll give you like sleeves, belts, whatever you need. Like if you need tacky, we got tacky, plenty of that. We'll help you clean the tacky off, etc. Like it was super supportive. I remember like my first show specifically, you'd come off an event and I was like gassed. And the guy that would like go, that literally went before me didn't even leave the competition floor. It's just turned around and started cheering me on. And that was like a whole nother level of camaraderie.
Yeah.
Recently, I put on my very first strongman show, so I'm officially a strongman promoter now, and I put on my very first. I put on my very first novice level show, and even for novice level athletes, it was crazy. So people who have never done strongman competitions before are just screaming at the top of their lungs, cheering each other on. It's one of those things where I remember hearing it early in my strongman career where nobody wants to win while you're down. We all want everybody at their absolute best. And that really is on display in the strongman community.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. Like I said, it's one of the things I love about strongman too, because like you know, I've never competed in strongman, and you know, at no level ever, any kind of competition. But the thing is I'm in the world, I'm immersed in it, and this is something that like it's very uncommon. Like when you have a team, of course there's camaraderie, of course there's fun, of course there's jokes. But when you actually go head to head with somebody and that person's still cheering you on, they don't wish you ill, and they want you to beat them at your best because
Yep.
that's the only acceptable thing to
Yep.
them. You know what I'm saying? And that's just one of those things that I love the most about it. But
Yeah.
what I really want to know is the background that you're putting on for your shows. I'm talking about how hard is it? What's coming out of pocket? Fucking the headaches and the just competitors dealing with
Yep.
somebody on that back end because that's more what I'm interested in because like I said
Yeah.
I've the fun part's always the fun part but I want to hear what it takes to put on these
Yeah.
shows.
Yeah, so honestly, I was pretty surprising. My biggest concern was one, the athletes weren't going to have fun. Like, I wanted to make sure that it was a fun environment because the whole reason why I put on that show was I kind of noticed as I had gone and supported more local shows, I don't know about the rest of the states, but here in Colorado, I've noticed we're kind of slowly missing this next generation of athletes. And so like I remember I coach a buddy of mine and he did that show and he just recently did his first open show and he was like I remember when we used to go and watch shows together, he'd be like, man, I gotta compete against this guy. I gotta compete against this guy. And then he showed up to the show and he's like, oh, none of these guys are here anymore. And that kind of like sparked that bug where I was like, we need something to get more athletes to just try the sport. And so I decided to make it an unsanctioned show just to kind of eliminate the overhead, right? Because I think one of
Mhm.
the big deterrents for new athletes is signing up for like federation fees and stuff like that. Like, what if you want to
Yeah.
do a show, it's your first strongman show, and you end up hating it? I would hate for an athlete to pay for like an annual membership, do one competition, and then they waste all that money and they never compete again, which I hope never
Yeah.
is the case. So we started out with that. Then picking out the events, I wanted to obviously pick all of my favorite events, but then you got to start thinking of the logistics. How are the athletes going to warm up? How are we going to have, like I remember picking the events finally and I was like, cool, we have enough equipment to do head to head lanes and actually do the show. And then as the show kind of got closer, I was like, we don't have enough equipment for athletes to warm up with because we have enough to do the show. And so that became like a logistical issue. But all in all, it went really well. I used obviously my internal network to start reaching out. I got a lot of sponsors for the show. A lot of them primarily, whether it was like gym equipment or trying to provide like goodie bags and stuff like that for the athletes. I got a lot of support from my community, from people that I'm familiar with. So a lot of help there. And then the strongman community in general, they just showed up in numbers. I literally had to tell people that I don't need any more help. I ended up having like 20 volunteers, and I even had so many volunteers that I was kind of like, "Hey, if you're coming anyways, can just be available if I need help?" And literally, just people just came to enjoy the show. We had 40 athletes. We opened registration, I want to say back in April of this year, and it sold out like by June, and then the show
Nice.
was in early August. So we sold out that show, and then every single time an athlete dropped, whether it was an injury or maybe something came up, Colorado's a huge military state, and so sometimes people like come down on orders or something like that. So we unfortunately had some athletes drop, but literally no more than a day would that slot fill back up. So that was really cool. Talking about the back end of putting on a show, I mean, for me, I'm such a OCD like perfectionist type of person with things like this. And so some of the big things that I think really helped out my staff, my volunteers, was like things like weight loading matrices. So like say for example, one of the events was a max or a log clean and press for reps. For each weight class, I literally drew a schematic of like this is a log. These are 25s. This is what this weight class is doing. This is a log with 325s. This is what this weight class is doing. So like not to say people are incompetent, but I literally made it like dummy proof for everybody to just do things seamlessly. So that helped out. I created like a responsibility matrix, like, hey, you guys are responsible for this, this, and this. Here's your backups in case you need a break or anything like that. That helped out. Fortunately, we were able to use the gym that I train out, Spartan Strength Systems, here in Colorado Springs. So we used the facility. That was pretty easy. But all in all, everything kind of flowed super seamless. Anything that was stressful was basically self-induced. Uh, like anything that was stressful, like was pretty much out of my hands. Regardless, I was just stressed about it. I think some of the big oopsies was like, oh, I probably should have rented a porta potty, which I did the week of the show. Um, at first, I told spectators to just bring lawn chairs, and then I was kind of like, "This is stupid. It's going to take up way too much room." So then I ended up renting chairs. But yeah, I for one am very for transparency because I think also if you don't have experience putting on a show, it really changes your perspective once you finally do, especially if you're an athlete competitor yourself, right? I think it's so easy to be an athlete, show up to a show, and hope things go seamless. But if you've never had the experience of working on the back end, it's so easy to complain about things. So like for me, I'll even give you somewhat rough numbers just because I don't know the top of my head, but I think I made about with 40 submissions. Even some of the athletes that dropped were like, "You could take my submission. Like I don't need a refund. I want to support your show." So I think all in all, I came in with 2,200 or something like that. I didn't
Yeah.
really need to I didn't really need to buy anything. The only thing I needed to buy things were like sandbags and stuff like that. So a lot of my expenses were one, I wanted to, even though it was an unsanctioned novice level show, I wanted to give the novice athletes experience of, like a pro am or like an open level show, like a real like I put a lot of effort into it. So I decided to use the majority of the funds that I got and got everybody custom athlete shirts. I got the competition logo on the front. I even put their last names on the back. I put all of our
Nice.
sponsors on the back. And that was like one of the biggest positive feedbacks. They're like, I've done this, and this, and I've never even gotten a shirt, let alone a shirt with my name on the back. So that was super cool. So I did a lot of that. A lot of the money that I did have left over after shirts went into equipment that I basically provided to our gym afterwards. So our gym kind of benefited off of that as well. And then anything left either came out of pocket for things that I didn't expect, like whistles, clipboards, timers, stuff like that, cones, even duct tape for lanes, and all kinds of miscellaneous stuff you don't really think about as an athlete. Um, and then any funds I had after that, basically, I paid for all of my volunteers' lunches. So that's pretty much where all that went. Planning for the show is pretty easy. I would say the hardest thing for me was not being biased on the weights because I literally had to consult like 8 or 9 people because things that seemed way too heavy for novice level athletes seemed good enough for me as a pro heavyweight strongman. So I was kind of
Yeah.
like, this is probably okay. But I think there also comes to a balance where like you also kind of have to stick to your guns a little bit, because my very first weight matrix, I had a handful of athletes like, hey, I don't know if I could do your show because this is really heavy. And one of the really good things that I think benefited the community in general was leading up to the show. I dedicated my Saturdays to host Strongman Saturdays for the novice athletes. They got free admission to our gym if they weren't members. And I basically gave every single person that showed up one-on-one time. It was like, here's my tips and tricks on this event. We are Strongman. Here's ways to cheat the event, stuff like that. And
Yeah.
so I wanted to give them a welcoming community to be like, hey, this is what our sport is like, and here's how you could do really well in the show.
Well, that's exactly how you should be putting on a show for anybody out there listening, and also understanding how much it takes. But man, just that aspect of actually sticking to your guns and being like, "Hey, I will show you
Yep.
how to get this done." And that's one
Yeah.
of those things too. Is like in strongman, like I said, people do have their secrets, but the general knowledge is always given. You
Yep.
know what I'm saying? Let me show you. Let me tell you. Look at this.
Yeah.
You constantly see it in the back of like, hey, next time maybe just try this, or if you're feeling this, that's one of those things. And just off you putting off that show, and everyone out there understand that's how much work it took for him to put on a non-sanctioned show. So you can only imagine how much extra work and how much extra time it would be to do that. So it's please understand how
Yeah.
hard this is. That's why I'm interested
Yeah.
in that part, because that's the thing, is like it's a whole other side of strongman that only a handful of people really know, because the majority of people who are putting on shows have been putting on shows.
Yep.
So, and you do plan on continuing to promote and put on more shows?
Yeah, so I'm already planning. So I've got a lot of positive feedback, right? Because it was a novice level show. Obviously, I got it pretty much from everybody that podiumed. They're like, "Oh, we can't do this show anymore because we're technically not novice athletes anymore." I got a ton of athletes who didn't podium, and they're like, "I can't wait to do this again next year." So we have started planning for the same exact format, a novice level, entry level show that's happening again, probably early August of next year. And then I got a lot of hey, you should do this kind of nudges to put on an open show. And so I won't get into too many details right now, but basically getting sanctioned, becoming an official director, and putting on an open level show here in our city. That's kind of also in the works too. I plan on hosting that in Colorado Springs, probably around sometime between March and May. It's just kind of tough with our weather here in Colorado Springs. I don't really know if it's going to be a good idea because March, I mean, honestly, all the way up to May, it snows in Colorado Springs. And I'd
Yeah,
hate for athletes to do something like a yoke carry in the snow.
in
You
the
know what I
snow.
mean? So, yeah. So I got to
Exactly. But
strategize
that
my
is
menu.
strongman.
That is strongman. You never know what kind of variables will get thrown at you. I remember one show I did was up in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and the last event, they were rushing because there was a huge storm coming in, and they said that it was coming in exactly at 1 o'clock. And we got to like 12:30 on the last event. It was Atlas Stones, and
Yeah.
so I was winning. I was leading in points, so obviously I was one of the last athletes to do it. So me and the guy that I was going head to head with had to do Atlas Stones in the pouring rain. Nuts. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, that is strong, man. And
Yeah.
this is just from a conversation that we had while we were helping with Nick in the backstage during powerlifting. But someone had asked you if you were going to be putting on a show, and you had told them a yes, and I do remember you telling them, "Oh, it'll be in August." And he's like, "August." And he's all, yeah, because we know the strongman season is a
Pretty much
stat
starts.
season.
Yep. Yes. Even for me, right? Like I had the novice show. I had the novice show the first weekend of August. The second weekend of August, I don't remember if it was strongman related, but I know I had something going on. I think I went out of town for a wedding. The third week was the strongest man on earth. The fourth week, I was a judge in a fundraiser strongman show called the Sunday Paper Classic. It's a fundraiser strongman show for St. Jude. And then what we had, what else happened? There's another. I mean, yeah. Essentially, what you're getting at is yes, like kind of like end of summerish all the way up to like basically the Arnold and World Strongest Man is like strongman. So yeah. But when I said August, yeah, so like I said, the novice level show will be ideally August, maybe even early June or later July or something like that. It just kind of depends, kind of on scheduling and stuff like that. And then I want to host an open show in the early part of the year. We did really well as a Colorado strongman community and syncing and getting together collaboratively to make sure we're not stepping on each other's toes.
Yeah.
Just because we want to be able to put on shows and get enough athletes to sign up essentially. And so that's kind of one of the big things where we've done really well on the back end in our state, even collaboratively with like Wyoming, for example, because Wyoming from where I'm at in Colorado, Cheyenne, Wyoming is like a 2-hour drive. And
Oh,
so
okay.
you want to make sure like we're not stepping on each other's toes because or Colorado and Wyoming are pretty in sync. Whether it's powerlifting or strongman, we're pretty in sync with each other.
Oh, yeah. Well, that definitely helps out, you know what I'm saying, knowing the schedule and then working these things around because, like I
Yeah.
said, there's so many shows, so many areas. And also,
Yeah.
too, it's always good that when you're working in the community, because, like I said, when you're getting those things set up and you're doing these things, it really helps out. And also, too, it further promotes the show because just like how you said earlier, you're getting generations happening where you get
Yep.
people that are not being able to compete no more or people that are going pro, and then now you got to bring them up. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
It's one of those things.
You gotta
Even with
keep
some of the
going.
shows, yeah, you got to. You know what I'm saying? You got to help inspire, help push. Like even out here, Jeannie, she's over here in Sacramento, which is close to me,
Yeah.
and I've gone to her Winter Warrior show twice already. And
Mm.
one of the things that she always says is like, no, I promote this open, I have this open, but the thing is these weights are to prepare you for what you're going to get if you
Yep.
make it to a national show, if you make it to a
Yep.
championship, because
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying, like you gotta prepare people for what's actually going to
Yeah.
happen. Because goddamn, even at OSG, you know what I'm saying,
Yeah.
you're doing deadlift ladders, you're doing max reps. You know what
Yep.
I'm saying? It's trying to figure that out.
And you never know what to expect. Things can change on the fly. I remember I did the Arnold earlier this year, and I won't get into too many details about what happened there, but basically, like we nixed an event as time started getting later and later in the day. They started changing the rules, and one of the events broke, so we had to change the event with nobody's. We got maybe like a 5-hour notice. Hey, this event's changing because the thing that we were supposed to use broke. So stuff like that, that is things that are normal, whether you're at the local level or whether you get up to those international level stages. You kind of talked about a little bit earlier when you're like, what were some of the headaches and some of the athlete cries and this and that about putting on the show. I mean, I would say, looking back on it, they're pretty small. The only like big one was, for an example, right? Like I was working with a company, and they wanted to sponsor the show with equipment, and they basically kind of left me uncommunicated with for a couple weeks, and then like two
Oh,
weeks before the show, they reached out finally, and they're like, "I'm sorry, but we're out of stock of the things we were going to send you." So then that was like a
oh,
huge stressor because I was like, "Crap, we were like relying on that, this and that," and so stuff like that. Like I said, you'll never know. You never know what to expect, right? Like I was a judge at that Sunday Paper Classic show I was talking about, and in the middle of the event, there was a sandbag over bar, and it was like a rising bar. And as it kind of got a little bit taller, one of the athletes just spearheaded the sandbag
oh,
with the yoke, with like the loading pin on the
oh,
yoke, and so
yeah,
we were out of a sandbag, and so we kind of just had to tell the athletes, well, sorry, use this heavier one, and so you never know, and that's why like to I mentor a lot of athletes. I'm even starting to coach, and like you just kind of have to adapt. You can't like the weights that you're doing at a competition can't be your maxes anymore. Like you can't just peak for those weights. You have to be able to
yeah.
do those weights any day of the week to be successful in the sport, in my opinion. I remember before, like my opinion has changed before, like when I first got into strongman, I was like, okay, cool, I could peak for some of these things. But like, say for example, if you have an 800-pound deadlift for reps and your 1 rep max is 800, how well are you going to do now? So I definitely think that you should just be ready to go. I remember watching uh, the World Championship deadlift, right, that just happened this
Yeah.
weekend, and a lot of them were like, a lot of the athlete interviews, they're like, yeah, I competed 4 weeks ago at Strongest Man on Earth, and then I did this, and now I have another competition in 4 weeks, and then after that another one in 4 weeks, and it's just like you just kind of have to go through the grinder.
That's it. That's it.
Yep.
That's what you like. I said it's murder's row with some of the
Yeah.
heaviest, biggest shows, and they're all pretty much within months of each other. And it's
Yep.
like, how do you, like the recovery and the progression you have to make in between each show is like, it's insane to me. And I always think about it. I'm like, God damn.
Yeah. And that's why too, like, I think there's actually, like, coming from being a powerlifter and now going into strongman, I wouldn't say it's a large, controversy or debate, but it's kind of like you have some of these powerlifters who are, you know, 220, 240, 275, whatever they may be. And statically, they're freaks, right? Squatting the
Yeah.
800s, deadlifting 900, stuff like that. But when you talk about, oh, I'm a powerlifter, I'm super strong compared to, someone who's 400 pounds deadlifting like 900, right? So if you're like 275
Yeah.
deadlift 900 versus a 400-pound guy deadlifting 900, I think the biggest difference between being the strongest, being a strongman and just being a powerlifter is like, yes, you deadlifted 900 pounds as a powerlifter. That's phenomenal. That's outstanding. But this guy's going to do that like every other week. Like
Yeah.
essentially, right? Like if he wants to stay competitive, he wants to stay in the pro circuit, that guy's going to have to do that every couple of weeks. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so when you talk about like rest and recovery, you could be a powerlifter and be like, yeah, I'm just not going to do that competition. But like some of these guys, it's their livelihood. They've got to do these shows back to back to back.
Yes. And even with you to say that, there are differences in powerlifting and in strongman where it's like strongmen use, like you're going to have competitions where they're using a deadlift bar, but they're also
Yeah.
having competitions where you're using an axle. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? You're using equipment that doesn't bend or give you any
Yeah.
advantage as some of the powerlifting stuff. Like even
Right.
squatting an axle is insane. You know what I'm saying? Fucking
Yes.
jerking a fucking an axle is insane. Trying to fucking get it overhead.
Yeah.
It like the equipment to use makes just so much of a tremendous difference in just
Yeah.
some of the lifts. And even with the people who are powerlifting, I'm saying, like I said, all respect and all that stuff too,
Yeah, of
is
course.
you
Yeah.
just but when you go to strongman, it's a deadlift is completely different.
Yeah. And it's a funny thing too, because you never know. The thing you're lifting could easily have been, something made in some person's garage randomly,
Mm-hmm.
like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm gonna crack a beer and build a timber frame or something like that, right? It's just,
Yeah.
oh, now all of a sudden it's this thing that people are using in competitions. Obviously at the big level shows, like worlds, strongest man on earth, etc. Like they're gonna do what they can to master those crafts, but like you never
Yeah.
know what you could walk into a strongman show.
Oh yeah. Some of the yokes I've seen at just some of these smaller shows and just some of the equipment, I'm like, oh, what I'm saying? Yeah. That was welded together there.
Yeah, and that does not look very secure. I've been to plenty of shows where things have broken in the middle of the competition, so that's just life sometimes.
Yeah, that is strongman right there. As it comes, you got to roll with the punches and
Yep.
still compete. You know what I'm saying? That's one of the things
Yeah.
I love about it, because it's almost, and I'm not comparing it to UFC, but what I'm saying is UFC, it's that day. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? What is happening at this moment? You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? Because like everyone can prep, everyone can be ready, everyone can, everything can go smooth during training, but the back and forth that you get with strongman because of that's like one of the biggest thrills that I love. I love watching that aspect. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Like how, yes, these athletes are strong, but how resilient can they be to adapt? And that is a big difference in setting yourself apart.
Yeah. No, it's a huge difference trying to get yourself set apart and just pushing through, like, because the amount of adversity that pops up at these shows for people, that's, and that could be internal, external, you know what I'm saying? Because you could see somebody who could, like, I should be able to get this, but they don't. And then now you got to see them try to regroup and bring it back together. Because I'm pretty sure you've had plenty of those struggles, starting out in strongman and coming up. You know what I'm saying? Like, what are the things that you always try to focus on just that mental attitude that you have to have towards these events and doing these shows?
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of one of those things where, like, if I'm not prepping for a competition, I'm genuinely just focusing on conditioning and just staying strong and staying healthy. I think one of the big things is, like, I think it definitely changed especially when I became a father. But, like, strongman, I've accepted will always be there, whether you've got FOMO or not, right? Like, that shit will
Yeah.
always be there. There's always going to be a competition lined up. You know, Rogue Invitational's big enough where they'll probably have it every year. If they don't, some other company will likely step up and have a show just as big. World's Strongest Man, been around since what, 1977 or something like that. It has
Yep.
been here. It's been around every year since. And so I think one of the biggest things is focusing on is always prioritizing your health, right? Like, I see so many athletes who aren't even at the big four level yet, right? And they're just jumping right back in. They're just trying to compete as often as frequent as possible. But, like, if you tear like a hamstring or like a bicep, if you go back in at 80%, would you rather go into a competition 80% healthy and potentially hurt yourself again? Or would you rather just wait till you're 100% and then just go back to the fight healthy? I think it's a hard balance though, because, right? Because, like I said, I think this definitely changed as I became a father. But, like, yes, I think there's a degree of how bad do you want it, but at the same time too, like, there's so many other factors in your day to day life. Like, if you can't even get out of bed, is is risking is risking your recovery that much more important. You know what I mean? And so I think for me, when I'm not, how I keep my mental, like, fortitude and stuff like that, like, I think it's just genuinely listening to my body, understanding where I can focus on recovery and stuff like that. And I spend way more money on recovery aspects or products or whatever than I will on the next newest knee sleeve or whatever it may be, like supplements, etc. Right? Like, I would say top down, it would go nutrition, recovery, and then gym things. Um, like, for me, for example, I pay for mobility. I have somebody who stretches me out and helps me with my mobility every week. I do deep tissue work pretty much every other week, depending if I'm in prep. If I'm not in prep, probably like once a month to probably like twice a month, depending on, finances. I go to the
Yeah.
chiropractor regularly. I do my blood work regularly. I'm always trying to think of things that can help me perform better in the gym, because you'll hear it a lot of, obviously, in the strength community, but the gym is the easy part. It's all of the
Yeah.
maintenance things afterwards that keeps you in the gym is the hard part.
Exactly. Trying to keep your body together and all that stuff.
Yes.
That's like one of the hardest things, especially in this sport, because you get guys that come in hot, fast, and strong, but they're redlining and not
Yeah.
worried about recovery, which, like I said, I'm not trying to speak on how, people are, but I always see people come in really hot, do really good, then you don't see them again. And,
Don't see me
it
again.
just
Yep.
fucking sucks.
I say that all the time. I think if it's not necessarily like it's like a PR or anything like that, but I would say, like, my goal in strongman would be to be someone like Mark Felix, right? Like, you don't. Well, while Mark Felix is a phenomenal athlete, phenomenal strongman, I don't aspire to be, the greatest of all time. Obviously, like, I don't have that, but I want to be able to be enjoying this sport for that many years, right? Like,
Yeah.
I want to be Mark Felix's age. At, like, what is? I think he's like in his 60s. I think, right?
Nah,
Like
I
late
believe he's
50s.
50. Yeah, he is
Yeah,
56 or 57 years old,
yeah.
and he retired what 2 years ago from Strongest Man on World Strongest Man. So he doesn't compete World Strongest Man no more,
But he still
but he's
competes.
OSG,
Yeah,
fucking giant slides at his
yeah,
age and still
yep.
you're still doing it, still breaking
Yes,
records, and it's
yes.
insane at his age. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. And so, like, that for me is a big goal of mine, is, like, as long as the conditions are right, and I still love it, obviously, as long as I do, but, like, I would rather be on that stage for 20 plus years than to come in, go to World's Strongest Man like 3 times, and then just kill my body off. I would rather be
Yeah.
doing this for a long time.
And that's a good strategy to keep. You know what I'm saying? That's
Yeah.
something everyone should be striving for. Is like, hey, understanding what it takes, understanding what you got to do because it takes this. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
doing the recovery, doing the nutrition, doing the blood work. You know what I'm saying? There are so many aspects of strong because like these high elite people are doing things that no one's considering because everyone's like, I need the just like I said, I need the newest sleeve, I need the newest bar, I need the like I need a suit, I need all these things. I'm like, a lot of these guys don't start with any of that shit. They start with fucking building that strength, building that body,
Yep.
and building that form. You know what I'm saying? Before they even get to touch any of that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like I think it's so easy to spend money on the next latest and greatest invention, but at the end of the day, if your form is trash, the world's next new knee sleeves are not going to fix your squat. You know, buying 7 different pairs of elbow sleeves isn't going to make you overhead press 400 pounds. The work in the gym that you put in is going to be what does that, right? Like right now for me, I'm getting ready for OSG in November, and I suck at circus dumbbell. Um, I'm not going to go out and buy multiply elbow sleeves and hope that all of a sudden I can hit that 4th circus dumbbell at OSG. I'm going to work on my weakness in understanding, one, being honest with myself. Why do I suck at circus dumbbell? Is it a strength issue? Is it a form issue? Technique, whatever it may be, and then really being honest with myself. I think going back to kind of what we were talking about, where like athletes come in super hot, always wanting to compete. It's hard though. You know what I mean? I do want to go back and circle back. It is hard because like for me, for example, I competed like 6 times last year, and I remember the last show I did was the Arnold, and I remember walking into that show just feeling foggy. I felt like I was dragging. I felt super fatigued. I don't even remember. I'll be honest, I don't even remember most of the event. I just remember I was tired the entire time. And it puts a harsh toll on your body competing that many times. And while there's benefit to it, there's also, some cons as well. But like for me, last year when I decided to compete as many times as I did it with the intent of I wanted to learn as much as I could from the individuals I compete with, the events that I had to do, how the show was ran, etc. And so like I wanted to grab as much data points as I can from those competitions. And then now I'm kind of in a phase where I'm picking and choosing. Obviously my son kind of, I have an 11-month old son. He takes priority in my life.
Oh yeah,
And and so that kind of also has a factor too, but also realistically stepping back and being like, my goal as a pro heavyweight strongman is to go to World's Strongest Man, is to go to Giants Live. And right now, the clear cut path to do so is the official strongman games. And so
yeah.
I'm going to essentially empty my tank into that show and do everything I can to podium. But
Oh
it's
yeah.
hard. Going back to what I was saying, it's hard. I've gotten invites to a lot of shows, especially after the Santa Monica Classic. Um,
Oh yeah.
and it's hard. It's hard watching them come to fruition. It's hard watching all the promotion come up. I recently turned down the invite to SCL USA, and they have been promoting that show super heavy, and I see it, and it is punching me in the gut. But at the end of the day, too, I think it's really important for a lot of athletes to remember what is your long term goal. And
Yes.
right now, that's going to World's Strongest Man.
And that's the thing too. It's just like I said, it's being focused and understanding. You know what I'm saying? Also, too, it's not putting all your eggs in a basket, but what it is lining yourself up for that success. You know what I'm saying? That's one of those things that
Yeah,
like working with the people that I've worked with and just being in the conversation, hearing the background. One of the things you always hear is look, people can compete repeatedly and put themselves in that position, but you got to make a statement when you make to these shows where it's like, hey, I'm prepared, I'm conditioned, and I can perform. And when you perform and you hit that podium, you know what I'm saying? And even if you're not hitting the podium and you're still fucking presenting something that's a package and that is phenomenal, you know what I'm saying? Because if you're setting records in these shows, that puts that flag up, you know what I'm
yep,
saying? And that's what will help you do these things and understanding. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, you can only compete as much as you can and be as healthy as you can because guess
right.
what? You have a goal, you have a plan. Some people blindly just rush into this thinking that it's just gonna work out.
Right, exactly. There's got to be a strategy, especially like not to undermine the fact that a lot of athletes do compete a lot. Like there are a lot of top level athletes that compete a
Oh
lot,
yeah,
do well.
yeah,
Like right, like Hafthor Björnsson pulled 505
exactly.
like how many weeks ago, and then came in, pulled 510, and then still won the show. There is a degree to it,
Yep.
but I think there's a strategy to it. And
Yeah.
I think one of the things that isn't talked a lot about in our sport is there is also kind of a business behind the scenes. So you gotta,
Yes.
and that's exactly why I think you got to start strategizing. Um, while most importantly, obviously still having fun and enjoying the sport.
Yes. Yes. And that's the thing too, is like there is a business that's behind strongman. There's a lot of companies out there that depend on strongman for their companies to be successful,
Yep.
and that's why you get these sponsors. That's why you have these athletes, repping. They're such a huge thing on the back end. And like I said, I'm gonna just I want to go into this conversation with you because, like I said, as an athlete, as a pro athlete, and with sponsorships, you one of the things you always hear from everybody who's not, and I'm just saying, not a pro that are coming up. I just need to get a sponsor. I just need to get this, and it's like one of those goals. I'm like, that shouldn't be your goal.
No, if your goal is sponsorships, I think you're going to be blinded by the actual mission. And what I mean by that is if you just do the work and don't chase the money will just come to you. And I think that doesn't even have to be strongman. That's just every aspect in life in general, right? Like if you want a new
Mm-hmm.
job, if you focus on your salary every single time you try and find a new job, you're just going to be stuck. Oh, I don't want this job because it doesn't pay very well. But say for example, for me, like outside of strongman, I work in cybersecurity. So it's like if you're so focused on this one aspect of, oh, I'll only make X amount of money here, but you gain so much value and experience, you might be shooting yourself in the foot from just slingshotting forward, right? And so
Yeah.
there are a lot of athletes um that I would even say go to stuff like World's Strongest Man and the big four shows, and they might not even have any big name sponsors. Um the more that I've been in the community, the more I've kind of learned about how some athlete contracts work and sponsorships and stuff like that go. And like there is that kind of weird bubble of like affiliate and
Yes.
sponsored athlete, etc., right? And so like there's that too. And it's like, are you chasing strongman to have as many brands on your t-shirt as possible, or are you trying to be the actual billboard that companies want to put their logos on? And I think
Yes.
that's what the focus needs to be is hey, if I go to official strongman games and get first, I can already think about the companies who are going to be like, ooh, this guy just won official strongman games. He's the first Filipino to ever go to Giants Live. He might also be the first Filipino to go to World's Strongest Man. We would love to work with this guy. And so
Exactly.
when you chase the ultimate mission, which is just bettering yourself as an athlete or whatever it may be depending on the context of your life, but if you just focus on the actual goal of just bettering yourself in general, the sponsor, you won't even have to chase sponsors. The higher level I got in powerlifting and then now crossing over to strongman, actually I would say the more times I've found companies who like wanted to be like affiliates or whatever the definition may be, and I've turned them
Yeah.
down just because of the sense of not wanting to work with them. But it's not about not wanting to work with them, but it's kind of like I don't think the athletes chasing sponsorships and affiliations truly understand the work that goes into it for an actual return on investment.
Very
There
true.
Yes, there is a lot of back end work that thankfully for me I have a background in like videography and graphic design and stuff like that. So like making content is easy. But like I remember there's been numerous times where like I've tried to film a YouTube video and my workouts would go from 2 to like 4+ hours just because we got to film stuff or whatever. So like there's so much work that it's cool to say that oh, I'm with this company or I'm with that company, but like when that company is like, hey, can you make a product video for this? And you just finished like a 3-hour training session of strongman events or whatever it may be, is the first thing on your mind going to be, hey, check out this new product that my sponsored company sent me, right? Like it not to say that I don't appreciate it or anything like that, or any of the companies that I work with, but there is there's a lot more work than just going around and being like, I work with these people. You know what I mean? So
Exactly.
there's a lot more behind the scenes work.
Oh yeah, no, there's a lot more scenes behind the work. Because like, and here's the thing: I come from a podcasting background, and that's what I've been doing for a big portion of my life. And the amount of sponsorships that I've had, and I've been here's the list of my sponsorships down to like, I only take what actually works for me. You know what I'm saying? Because like I've had to definitely understand it, because podcasting world is the same world, not the same world as strongman, but in the same concept of like, oh, if I have a sponsorship, it'll make me legit. It doesn't make you legit. Your
Mm-mm.
show, you make you legit. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? It's like, look, of course, I do have people that pay me, and
Mm-hmm.
I take it. Thank you. I appreciate my sponsors, but at the same time, I've had the biggest names and the smallest names, and it's something that I at a moment I was like, I can't do this no more, because it's taking away from my show. You know what I'm saying? And also
Right.
too, it's like really working with somebody who will work for you and work with you
Right.
is more the understanding, at least from coming from my background of what I've had to deal with, all of my affiliations and
Yeah.
sponsorships and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
it's just so crazy.
Yeah, especially too if like you get right, like we're on the subject of it. If an athlete's chasing an affiliation or sponsorship like that, you also kind of want to make sure you like working with these people, right? Like I know plenty of times where I've seen people who are like, "Oh, I finally got picked up by this company." And they're super unresponsive and they make me pay for all of these things and yada yada yada, whatever it may be. Well, it's like then
Yep.
if you're coming out of pocket to represent something and you're not even enjoying it, then maybe it's just best for you to break ties. Like you're not if you're not able to perform at what you do because you're spending time doing this and this, and now you're kind of coming out of pocket for it. It's kind of like, do you care more about representing the brand to sound legit, or do you care more about being a billboard for brands to slap their logos on?
And that's exactly it right there. It's so crazy. Like I said, when I was young in the podcast game, I had to learn that lesson, and I didn't learn it very fast, but I did learn it.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
And but that's for those out there who train strongman, who are strongman, and basically in any endeavor that you can have a sponsorship, is just understand that, like, you the value you have should not be going towards trying to promote something else. You should be 100% pushing yourself, pushing your goal, pushing your agenda of what you're trying to achieve in whatever facet you guys are chasing. You know what I'm saying? It's
right.
so crazy.
Yeah. And like I said, there's a lot of work to it, right? Like sometimes you'll have in your contract, like you have to wear this during this event, or, make sure you say something about this, or like, hey, after you finish this event and they do an interview with you, make sure you say our name and stuff like that. So it's just like, even remembering some of those things can get you, forgetting something could even get you to lose your sponsorship and stuff. So it's like, I don't know, at the end of the day, I want to make a point that it's very important to continue to be the billboard that logos want to slap on. It's not
Agreed.
important to chase them. As soon as you become that billboard right there on that freeway driving into Las Vegas, you become that.
Yeah,
every Then companies will want to slap their logos on you, and then you won't even have to reach out to companies will be reaching out to you. And not to say that it's an egocentric thing, or you should be arrogant about it, but it's like, if you just focus on the goal at hand, whether it's going to World's Strongest Man or being a pro tennis player, or being a fighter, or whatever it may be, focus on your craft, and the money, the sponsorships, all of those nice little goodie bags start coming for you versus you trying to chase it.
exactly. And that's exactly like the one of the things I always want, like with a lot of people, because I hear it amongst people, training, going to the gym, being around the thing, and it's just always like, don't worry about that part. You know what I'm saying? And with people understanding and hearing it, it's like, it'll push you in the right direction. And like I said, it took me a long time to learn that lesson just on my end, but I'm glad I learned it, and I'm glad we can always talk about it, because that's one of those things. Is I want people to be successful, I want people to win, and I want people to get what they want. But at the same time, it's just like you said, you got to be the billboard, you got to be the person, you got to be the representative of you. And when you look good, feel good, and do good, the right things will come right to you.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah. Man, I love doing these podcasts, because sometimes I just fucking lose track of fucking time, man. It's almost an hour, and it's like, what the fuck? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's happened to me a couple of times.
Oh,
Where I just love talking to people. I love sharing my experiences. I love talking about the things that I've been through. I think, especially when you get into strongman, everybody's journey to wherever they go is so different, right? Like some people pick the OSG path, some people go, towards like SCL, some people don't do either, and they end up on World's Strongest Man. It's just like, it's so fascinating talking to people, talking about their experiences, and what might work for you, what might work for you might not work for me. And so but having that knowledge is still essential, in my opinion, just because, hey, that worked for you, that doesn't mean it'll work for me, but I know that that's, a potential.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? It's understanding, strongman is strategy in every way. Whether it's a show, whether it's an event, whether it's getting to the goals that you want, you gotta
Yep.
have your head on that swivel and understand
Yep.
how the points work, how the events work, and how
Yep.
everything will play out. You know what I'm saying? It's almost
Yep.
like it's chess. You know what I'm saying? And most people don't even think it. It's just big guys picking up rocks. I'm like,
Well,
that's not the case.
that's not the case. But yeah, I mean, like we talked about, right? Like, while there's a strategy, while there's, a business to the back end, there's so many other aspects to being and competing as a strongman. I think the number one thing I want to tell everybody who listens to this is make sure you're still having fun, because there's really no point. I said this on another podcast recently, but without the fans, we're just dudes picking up rocks. And while I would
Yeah.
while I will always love the sport of strongman, no matter whether I compete or not, you got to make sure that you enjoy it, because if you're not enjoying this sport, you're just breaking your body off. You're not having fun anymore. And for what, So I think that's one of the biggest things that I kind of want to throw out there is like, I see so many people who go to competitions. I've had experiences where I do shows and stuff like that, and people are just pouting like, "Oh, I didn't do well at this event." The Santa Monica Classic was a perfect example where I won't necessarily call anybody out, but like sometimes people would zero an event or maybe not get as many reps as other competitors, and they kind of go to the back and they'd pout, throw a towel over their head, cry about it or something like that. But it's like, look how sick this is. We all paid, but we all paid to
Yeah.
be here to compete on the Santa Monica Pier in front of a
Yep.
crowd who didn't pay to be here. They are just here screaming and cheering for you because they thought what you were doing was cool. And I guarantee you that
Hell yeah.
this is probably the first time a lot of the crowd has seen somebody pick up a car, press a log, lift a circus dumbbell, carry 1,000 pounds on their back. This is something where people are entertained by you. So just live in the moment and enjoy it. It doesn't matter if you have a bad event. Move on, go to the next one and do better. But make sure you're always having fun, because I think we talked about recovery, we talked about nutrition, et cetera, and stuff like that. But I think what'll keep you in this game the longest is making sure you still enjoy while you're doing it.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. And let's end on that right there, because that was fucking beautiful, because that's exactly what. Let everyone know where they can find you, so I can put your information in the bottom, and so
Yeah, of
everyone can,
course.
Instagram, all that good stuff.
Yeah. So my name, like I said, if you didn't catch the beginning, my name is Marc Sanchez. That's Mark with a C. You can find me on Instagram at Legend of Mark. You can find me on YouTube, Legend of Mark _. And if you find me anywhere else, that's not me.
You heard that. All right. And this is the Angry Motherfucking Dad. Thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate it. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, all that fucking bullshit. It really helps me to fuck out. I'm also part of the Inner Circle Podcast Network, a group of powerful podcasters out there sharing their shit. That is innercirclepn.com. Take it to everyone on our websites, everyone on our shows. Make sure you check it the fuck out, because we have shows as The Plunge, Failing Hollywood, Simmons and More, The Untrained Eye, The Hood Diner, and Shit Happens When You Party Naked. And we'll see y'all motherfuckers on the next one.
See you,
Bye.
motherfuckers.
Never die. always living, always living, always living, always living.